welcome back, and this is my DEC Rainbow. This is a pretty unique system. It has an Intel 8088 and a Zilog Z80 hiding out inside of it. That means that it's actually a triple boot system. It can boot into MS-DOS, it can boot into CP/EM, or it can boot into VT100 terminal emulation mode. And we've used it in all three of those modes for various things. Right now, primarily it lives on top of my PDP cabinet, acting as the main terminal for my PDP 1183. But the fact that it can go into DOS and CP/EM, I think, is just awesome. However, it's missing three vital things. The first is the monitor. We've got the VR201 up here. This is a monochrome only monitor. And this machine actually has the color graphics adapter inside of it, but we didn't have a monitor to go with it. Now, in the previous episode, I modified a cable to make a Princeton Ultrasync work with the machine. And while I think that's awesome, it's not what's supposed to be with the machine. The machine was supposed to come with a VR241, which was the full color monitor meant for the DEC Rainbow. It's also a little low on RAM. It does have the RAM expansion card. I think without that card, it has a base of 64K of memory, but that RAM expansion card lets you fill it out with a number of chips to however many you need. And I think right now it's got like 192K in it, but ultimately that can be expanded out to 890K, and it's not fully expanded, so we're kind of missing that. And the third and final thing that it's really missing is a hard drive. It does not have the Winchester controller, even though the motherboard has the plugs for it, and there's no hard drive in it. The only drives in this entire machine is this little RX50 right up front. So I really love this machine, but I really want it to be the ultimate DEC Rainbow. And well, I was talking about this with a good buddy of mine, John, and John said, you know what, I've got a couple of rainbows in the back. Maybe we can figure something out. And he hooked me up with this. This is a DEC Rainbow 100 Plus. It has a fully populated RAM card, so it should have the full 890K RAM. It has the Winchester controller card, and it has a drive in it, a hard drive in it. It also looks like it has a later model RX50 in there as well. So I am really excited about this because that takes our base unit and expands it to the absolute maximum. But we are still missing that color monitor. And I could use that Princeton Ultrasync, but John is a legend, and he said, hey, let me dig around in my, my shed right quick. And he came out with this. I gotta kind of move around it here. This is the VR241. This is the monitor that is supposed to go with the DEC Rainbow. So this is a fully spec'd out ultimate DEC Rainbow. It is a little worse for the wear and a little bit filthy, so let's take it completely apart. We'll combine the best of both systems and bring this up as the ultimate top spec DEC Rainbow. I'm excited about this one. The Rainbow is designed to be very easily serviced, so the top comes off just unbelievably easy. You just pull two levers on the bottom, and then it lifts right off, revealing all the goodies inside. And there is that ever elusive MFM hard drive. What a sight to see. But let's start with removing the RX50 dual floppy drive. I'll disconnect the power and ribbon cables. Then I just need to push the locking tab down and slide the drive out. But this one is being a little stubborn, so let me give it a little percussive maintenance, and yeah, there it goes. Now it'll slide right out. Next, let's get the hard drive out. I'll slide it forward just enough to get access to the cables on the back. Then we'll disconnect both ribbon cables and the power cable. Then it slides straight out the front, just like the floppy, only this one didn't need me to punch it. Speaking of power, let's pull the power cable out next. The top connector just slides out of the power supply, but interestingly, the hard drive ribbon cable needs to come out before the bottom connector can. To get the power supply unit itself off, it's just a few cables and a little clasp. Then it rotates up and out with ease. To get the computer itself out, there are just 4 little thumb screws on the back. Only one of them has had the plastic completely broken off, so I have to do it the hard way with a pair of pliers. And judging by all the scratches, I'm not the first one either. With all those loosened up though, the entire computer assembly slides right out the back. All the expansion cards are attached to this little sled, so let's get them all off of there, starting with the floppy controller card. It just pops right up and out, and this one is the easiest by far to remove. Then, after a bit of fiddling, the graphics card comes up and out as well. Next up is the RAM expansion card, which interestingly has a plastic shield on the backside of it. My other one didn't. And finally, the extra rare Winchester controller card for the hard drive. I'm going to be extra careful with this one as it's the only one I've ever seen. All right, we got everything out and laid out on the table. I actually had to change camera lenses in order to get it all to fit. At the far end, we have the RX50 dual floppy drive. Next to it, we have the Seagate ST412 hard drive. Then we have our power supply, and then we have all the cards that make up the computer. Now, these cards are largely the same as the other Rainbow, our original Rainbow. So if you want to know more about what those cards look like up close, check out that older video. But the floppy card here, the CGA card here, both of these are pretty much identical to what we had in the other machine. The PC100B memory expansion card here is also identical to the one that we had, except that this one is fully populated with RAM chips. The other one had much more beautiful RAM chips on it, but it wasn't fully populated. So this is a full complement of RAM. The main board here is, I think there's a little changes between the revisions of that older main board and this main board, but the heavy hitters are all still there. We've got our Intel 8088 and our Zilog Z80 here, and it's really cool to see the two of those in such close proximity to each other. But the real party piece is this card right here. That's the one we were missing, and that's the one I am most excited about because that is the hard drive controller card. And looking closer at the hard drive controller board here, it's a really beautiful 4-layer PCB. And well, we got to talk about the absolutely stunning ceramic package with gold pins. This is a WD1010AL. I'm pretty sure this is like the primary hard drive controller chip, and it's just stunning to look at. Right next to it, we have an HM6116. I'm pretty sure this is like a static RAM. I don't know. Editing David will look it up and I don't know, put the data sheet up as an overlay. Anyways, over here we have a 10 megahertz crystal oscillator, an absolutely gorgeous little metal can transistor, and this little box. I see this type of package a lot on different controllers, and I think it's a delay line. I'm not entirely too sure. We have another box that looks like a similar shape over here, so I don't particularly know what those are. But other than that, it's a relatively simple PCB, and I'm extremely excited to get this all plugged back into the system and fire it up and see if we can find anything on the hard drive and see what works and what doesn't. But first, we got to clean that case up because it's looking a little dirty. This case is absolutely filthy, but it's hard to tell how much is just dirt and grime and how much is going to be actually stubborn scuff marks. So I always start the same way when cleaning something like this. Liberal amounts of simple green and some rags. This will get all the easy stuff up without any problems at all. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of scuff marks that are proving to be a lot more stubborn. So I grabbed some orange pumice abrasive hand cleaner and started scrubbing. This stuff is usually meant for greasy hands from working on cars or, you know, other nasty stuff, which means that it's a lot more aggressive, but it seemed to do the trick. So let's move on to the VR241. And again, I'll use the same battle plan, only this time I'll start with glass cleaner, then upgrade to simple green before finally digging into the orange pumice hand cleaner. Finally, let's put it all back together. This little time lapse is just a single take, no cuts, and it took less than 4 minutes to get the entire thing back together. That is just unbelievably good serviceability. This thing cleaned up extremely well. It looks amazing. There's a little bit of yellowing, but all of that nastiness and grossness and scuffs, they all just came completely off. Oh man, it's awesome. I am stunned at how well this thing cleaned up. But we don't actually know if it works. So all we gotta do is flip this little switch on the front and see what happens. And nothing's gonna happen because, well, first of all, I've got it unplugged from the wall. And second of all, we don't have a cable. We don't have a way to plug this keyboard into the machine. We don't have a way to plug the monitor into the machine. DEC used a very special cable that came out of the single 15-pin port here on the back that then went up to the monitor with separated RGB and keyboard. And hilariously, we already made a cable like that in the previous episode. That was this monstrosity right here that I was planning on redoing at some point in time more professionally. But this is a 25-pin connector that is specific to the Princeton Ultrasync monitor that we had. This is not going to work with this, so we're going to have to build yet another new cable. But I've bought lots of supplies. You guys already know how this goes by watching the previous episode, so I'm just gonna hunker down, get it done real quick, and then the next time we flip that switch, there will be power in it. All right, I've got the cable made up. It actually looks very similar to how the original cable is supposed to be. You've got your little RJ11, I think, plug here on the end that the keyboard plugs into, and then the 3 coax cables come out the side, and this is for red, green, and blue. And it all goes back to a 15-pin connector that goes into the machine. It turned out pretty good, I think. I have no idea if it actually works. It should, but there's only really one way to find out, and that is to plug it into the machine and throw some electrons at it. So let's get this plugged in and give it a test. Hopefully it all works okay. All right, cable's plugged in. Here goes nothing. We'll flip the power on to the CRT first. I heard it initialize. It should start to warm up, and we should, I don't know, maybe get a white picture or something, depending on what we have the contrast set at. There we go. Okay, so we do have a little bit of life out of the CRT. Whew, let's flip the power on the Rainbow and see what happens. I can hear the drive spinning up. I got testing up here. That's good news. Oh, yeah, there we go, testing. The fans are on. The hard drive has definitely spun up. There we go, just read both of the drives. Message 13 keyboard. That means I got something wired up incorrectly on the keyboard. Oh, that's unfortunate, but that's excellent news. Look at that, we've got something coming out. So the cable is mostly working. The machine has spun up. That's excellent. We just got to figure out what I got wired up wrong on the keyboard. All right, it was a fairly simple, dumb mistake. I trusted the color of the wires coming out of the socket, and they were actually reversed of the color of wires going into the socket from the plug. So I ended up wiring everything up backwards, and in the process, that means that I injured my other keyboard. So I'm on a backup keyboard now, but we're fully booted into this Rainbow 100. Well, fully booted, we're up to the main screen here that's asking me what drive I want to boot from. And we've got A, B, C, D, and W. And I'm thinking W is the Winchester, but I've got the DOS disk into A right now. So let's go ahead and see if we can boot from that. System load incomplete. That's not great. Okay, I should have CPM and B. Let's try that. System load incomplete. Ooh, I don't know. Maybe the floppy drive is dirty, needs cleaning or something. Let's just go for broke. Let's hit W for Winchester. Okay, the hard disk is installed with the following partitions. Please select a partition from which to start the system. Press the up arrow key or down arrow key or number key to point to the selection. So we've got CPM and DOS. Let's boot into DOS. We'll go ahead and hit 2 and enter. And that doesn't do anything. It says, then press do to start. So we'll hit do up here. There we go. Loading MS-DOS. I can hear it reading from the hard drive. Oh, wow. Okay. 90184. Let's set it to 08-23-1984. See if it'll take a slightly older date here. Yeah, there we go. Let's just do a directory of E. That seems to be working. Let's see if we can read the A drive. Yeah, let's see if we can do a directory of it. Let's do a dir/w. I don't know what that is, but it does have the Regis demo, so we should be able to see some color on that if we do Regis dim. All right, that did not seem to go well. I bet you that floppy drive needs to come out and get cleaned. But let's try to read the B drive, see what it does. Bad unit error regarding. Yeah, we're all messed up. All right, I should have given the RX50 a clean before I started, but here we go. It's just 4 simple screws on the bottom, and the slide rail comes right off, followed by the outer metal casing, which slides off the back of the drive. And with that out of the way, there's really excellent access to the read and write heads. I just lifted the little pad out of the way and gave the heads a scrub with some IPA on a small Q-tip. But I also want to clean the stepper motor shaft and slide rails. I tried to get in there with my Q-tips, but it was just a little too tight to do it right. Plus, I needed to get access to the bearings for the main spindles, so I took it far enough apart to get that deep into it. Then I sprayed a little lube into the bearings and worked it until it felt nice and smooth again. With the drive taken care of, I wanted to see if I could get quick access to the LK201 PCB to see what exactly I hurt. And while initial disassembly was nice and easy, to get any deeper is going to require a whole lot more time than I'm mentally prepared to spend, so I'll just clean up the spare keyboard and use that as my main for the time being. All right, I got a nice, clean, fully working keyboard plugged into it. I've got the RX50 fully cleaned up, and I think everything's working. We'll try to boot DOS off of the RX50. I'll hit A here to boot from the A drive. We can see that that light has illuminated. MS-DOS loading. We've already gotten farther than we got before. And it should ask me for date and time. There we go. And if I hit directory, we get a directory listing of everything that is on this disk. That is excellent. So I'm going to reset the machine. And I want to try and boot from the B drive because I have a disk in there that is Lotus 123. And I've never actually run that. So we'll see if it actually just boots directly on its own. Well, MS-DOS loading, that's interesting. But it is reading the B drive. That's excellent news. That means that our RX50 is doing good. It looks like it's going to ask me date and time again. Okay, so we'll just hit enter on that. Hit enter on that one. And then, all right, just says Lotus. That's awesome. So it's, yeah, there we go. So it just immediately booted into Lotus 123 here. So let's go ahead and hit 123, see if it does anything from here. This is uncharted territory for me. Unfortunately, the floppy disk is super slow, so someday I'll have to figure out how to copy this from the floppy to the Winchester. All right, it just kicked us back up to the main menu program here. Maybe I don't understand how to use this, so we'll just go ahead and exit out of that. Yes, we'll leave Lotus Access System. I've never used Lotus before. I have absolutely no idea how to use it. So let's go set up one more time. We'll do control setup to restart the machine. Let's make sure that our hard drive is still fully working, and that would be W when we get to this main menu here. So we'll go ahead and start from that. We've got CPM and MS-DOS, so we'll boot into MS-DOS. Got to hit do, not enter. It's so much quieter and so much faster. There we go. We're fully into DOS. Now there is one thing that I want to run that I figured out earlier, and that is in the utility section here. So we'll go CD space utility. We'll do a directory listing on it. And there's a file in here called option and option 3. Option 3 is the one that we're interested in. So we'll type option 3. And look at that. Graphics option is here. Extended COM option is not here, but that's to be expected. I actually did some reading about this. The extended COM option plugs into the same spot as the Winchester option. You can't have both at the same time. And the Winchester option is here with a RD51 disk drive. I believe that's a 10 megabyte disk drive. This is a PC100B, and an 8087 coprocessor is not here. That's interesting. I have not found any documentation anywhere that mentions an 8087. So if you guys know more about getting an 8087 into one of these, let me know, but I didn't see any sockets or anything set up for it. So that could just be a quirk of this little program. And then finally, the total memory is 704K. That That's a weird number. That's not the number I would have expected. So I don't know, maybe we have a bad RAM chip on our memory expansion card. Essentially what I'm gonna have to do to test that, I think, is run a diagnostic program, which I happen to have on floppy, but that takes forever. So we're not gonna do that today. So we'll go ahead and exit out of this. Let's reset one more time. And I want to check the final operation aspect of this triple boot machine. And that is terminal mode. So we'll go ahead and hit T to enter terminal mode. We're in terminal mode now. So I'm going to flip on the PDP 1183 down here. Oh, that's interesting. That didn't show up correctly. Maybe the setup is not right here. So let's bump over. That's 8N. Yeah, wow, okay. There we go. We need to bump you up to 9600 and then exit setup. There we go. Nice. User-defined address for device VH3 not found, device disabled. The fact that we're seeing that as actual text is excellent news. So we just had the wrong baud rate set. I don't know how to tell it to save that for the future. I didn't see a battery backup in there. There we go. Nice. Fully into our PDP 1183 running in terminal mode on our DEC Rainbow here. This thing seems to be working 100% perfectly. That is awesome. There we have it, max spec DEC Rainbow 100 Plus. It's sitting here churning away, working perfectly. As a matter of fact, we're actually sitting in CPM right now. I tried to run Microsoft Multiplan. It just says load file not found. But the point is that it ran Multiplan within CPM. So we're in CPM and I can hop over to MS-DOS and it works wonderfully as a terminal. So we have a fully spec'd out DEC Rainbow. Well, almost. It's missing one more component, one more peripheral, and that is a printer, which I just so happen to have right up here. That is a DEC LA50, and it is the printer that is supposed to be used with a DEC Rainbow. The only reason that I didn't plug it in and demonstrate it today is because it needs a little bit of restoration work itself. There's some rust growing inside of it that we got to deal with. It's all gummed up and it just needs to come apart and get cleaned and get brought back up to working. So that's going to get its own restoration video going on in the future. Once we get that going though, what next? Well, I have the DEC Rainbow sitting on top of my PDP 1144, which is sitting right next to my PDP 1183 down here. And while the 1144 doesn't quite work at the moment, the 1183 is plugged up into it and we saw that it works excellently as a terminal. But I was thinking about this, you guys may disagree, but I'll throw this out there and let me know what you think. I was thinking about this the other day and the Centurion I find so fascinating, and I think I find it fascinating because that's what you bought. You bought the Centurion to use the Centurion when it was new. But when we talk about stuff like the PDP-11, I think oftentimes the PDP-11 wasn't bought for the PDP-11 itself. It was bought to be a tool to use with something else. Now I have a plan for the 1144 and it will use the DEC Rainbow as the terminal for it. And I'm really excited about that. So I'm gonna bring the 1144 up and then we're gonna hook up maybe some interesting processing stuff to it and get it doing some really fancy supercomputing stuff. But that's in the future. The big question that I have is what do I do with the 1183 down here? This is an interesting situation where the 1183 works wonderfully as it is, but it's still just an 1183. I feel like it needs to be bolted up to something else to make it really awesome. But I don't have a whole lot of free space around here. So I wanted to get you guys' opinions. What do you think I should hook my 1183 up to that would make it a really epic build? Something that would really get the fire burning inside of me and inside of you as a viewer. So I'm gonna leave that one out there for you guys to mull over and leave comments in the section below. And I also want to thank John so much for hooking me up with this Rainbow 100 Plus. This thing is awesome. I am so happy with it. And I'll pay it forward because I now have a spare DEC Rainbow with VR201 that I don't need anymore. So we'll get it into the hands of another enthusiast that's really looking forward to using a DEC Rainbow. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.